Hey everybody, welcome to Horror Face Off. I'm your host, Jason, and on today's episode, we have the two horror films that revitalized the genre in the 90s. We have 1996's Scream versus 1997's I Know What You Did Last Summer. Two star-studded slashers do battle next. To break down the show today, we have horror journalist Michelle, horror actress Haley, horror fan John, coffee god Brad, horror fan Sunday. They join the horror face-off slasher Leighanne, and me, your host, Jason. Hello everybody, welcome to Horror Face-Off. I'm your host, Jason. And just to explain quickly how this show works, we take two horror films and match them up against each other. Using specific categories, the show's fearless panelists dissect every bone-chilling detail. In the end, the film that has the most category points wins Horror Face-Off. But the panel needs to think fast, where they only have a limited time to make their case. If they take too long, they will be killed. Hi, Leighanne.
Hey.
And she will kill them. But we're not going to worry about that right now. We are going to be worried about getting awesome opinions from these amazing panelists that we have joining us. And we're going to start the show with plot. The show today is Scream versus I Know What You Did Last Summer. And we will start off with John.
Yeah, so I picked Scream in this category because Scream has a lot going on. There's the main slasher plot, then it has all the plot underneath that with Sydney's mother's murder from the year before, and that all works together to kind of make the story a lot more complicated and sinister. You could almost have a movie about that without having to even have the slasher plot on top of it. I Know What You Did Last Summer is cool. It's a neat mystery, but it doesn't have the complexity that I think Scream does.
All right. Well under time, and we will move on to Brad.
Funny enough, I find that both of these movies kind of have a similar plot in a lot of ways. They have very different stories, but the plot is kind of similar. I agree with John a lot. I feel that I would probably give the nod to Scream just because of the complexity there. But I do have to say that I really did enjoy I Know What You Did Last Summer and the twists and turns that that movie presented as well. Funny enough, that was the movie that I loved for years, and Scream I couldn't touch. So I always went to I Know What You Did Last Summer first.
All right. Interesting. We'll delve more into that, I'm sure, as we go along. Haley, you're up.
All right. So I'm actually going to go with I Know What You Did Last Summer for plot, just because I do think that it is so different. Even though I love Scream, I'm a Wes Craven girly, but I do think that I Know What You Did Last Summer is a very unique kind of plot, and I just think that it is fun and something kind of different, even though it is still a teen slasher. I just think there's something a little more unique there.
All right. We're rolling along. All right. So we have some new blood in the show, and let you kind of assess how the panels work. And Sunny, are you ready to go?
Yeah.
All right.
I'm going with Scream. I think I Know What You Did Last Summer is a little more convoluted plot-wise, and Scream's a bit more straightforward and easy to follow, so it makes it a more chill watch.
All right. We're going to be done in 20 minutes. This is great. Okay. So, Michelle, you're up.
I love both of these movies, but I have to go with Scream. Obviously, in 1996, slashers have been around for quite a while, but I think that what Wes Craven did with Scream was he basically revitalized the subgenre. I think the plot is much more interesting. There's a mass killer stalking a group of teenagers. The whole meta aspect of it I find really fun. So yeah, I have to go with Scream.
All right. Okay, so we're knee deep into things. So we're moving on to the next category,
And we're going to start off with Brad. Brad, the category is setting.
For me, the funny thing about both of these movies, the background and the setting is really not remarkable in either, as far as I'm concerned. However, being an East Coast boy and growing up in Newfoundland, I Know What You Did Last Summer and the kind of East Coast or the coastal, I guess it could be West Coast too, the coastal feel of the town and the day-to-day living and stuff there, that kind of resonated more with me. It kind of looked like and felt like a town that I would have visited. So I would give the setting to I Know What You Did Last Summer.
All right. John.
Yeah, I would also give it to I Know What You Did Last Summer. I like the sort of, the guy with the hook and the sort of the boating and things like that kind of add that atmosphere to it. Scream just kind of takes place in a really fancy area of, I presume, Los Angeles. I wish my high school was that nice, but mine was not nearly that, not even close. But I know No Till the Summer, again, it has that coastal vibe. There's a lot of boating kind of imagery. And I think for a setting, it adds a lot of style to it, whereas Scream is just, rich kids in high school.
All right.
Can I just say one thing, though? Being someone that lived in Newfoundland for 16 years, no fisherman that I've ever met wears what the killer wears. And I Know What You Did Last Summer. No one does. And they all wear it around the town like it's like common garb. No way.
No galoshes.
Mm-mm.
Got it. All right, Michelle, you're up. Setting.
I am actually from coastal North Carolina. In fact, right now I live in Wilmington, very close to where they filmed I Know What You Did Last Summer. But that said, I have an issue with, there's maybe one or maybe two scenes in I Know What You Did Last Summer where they show like the roadway by the beach. There are no roads by the beach in North Carolina that look like that. It is clearly California. And that has always irked me. I'm from the area, so I would go with that, but I'm going to go with Scream for mainly that reason. And Woodsboro seems like oh no.
Awesome. You are now beloved on the show. Awesome. Okay, so it was funny because when I threw to you, I said, "Okay, Michelle, you're up," and then I gave the category setting, and I was like, upsetting. It just, I'm glad no one else kind of picked up on that except in my headphones. So you're not upsetting. You actually delighted me by getting killed. So we move on to Haley.
So I'm gonna give the setting to I Know What You Did Last Summer, just because it is feels a bit more unique, being kind of a coastal East Coast vibe, and to me that is something very unique to me because I'm from Toronto. So I'm just like, ooh, that's fun. That's kind of a fun element in having the fisherman vibe. So I thought like that's just kind of fun, even though I love Scream. But here I am going with I Know What You Did Last Summer yet again. But
it happens with these categories. That's the way it shakes down sometimes. All right, Sunny, you're bringing the round to an end.
Okay, I Know What You Did Last Summer. I think that Stu's house is gorgeous in Scream, but I've never been in North Carolina, and I really like those coastal street shots. I think they're beautiful. And I think all the action in the underneath of the boat is unique and cool.
That's it. Short and succinct. After 2 rounds, it looks like we got a battle. So this is pretty cool. I'm stoked for the rest. Okay, so we move on to the third category, which is filmmaking. And for everybody watching and joining for the first time, filmmaking is where you will throw in your cinematography. In this category, in this show, we don't have writing, so you'd put in your writing. You would put in everything, music and score. So filmmaking is all-encompassing, and it could be broken down that way, or it could just be very, very simple. It's up to you. So to start off filmmaking, we will start off with Michelle.
I'm going to go with Scream for filmmaking. Wes Craven has a really distinct style that I really love. There's use of handheld camera in this, especially in the opening sequence, which is so iconic. The Marco Beltrami, I believe, his score really ramps up the intensity of it. The special effects are fantastic, so I'm going with Scream.
Awesome. Haley.
So I'm also going to go with Scream because there is a lot of very interesting technical shots. for example, Drew Barrymore, when she's looking in the reflection, you like see the reflection of Ghostface, and they both have kind of the exact same reflection. And I think that just Wes Craven will use a lot of very kind of creative ways to incorporate things in a way that I don't think I Know What You Did Last Summer did exactly in the same way. So just I think technically speaking, Wes Craven, 10 out of 10.
All right. Okay, Sunny.
I'm giving it to Scream. Based on soundtrack alone, Scream, but also I think the gore is just more fun to look at.
All right. Brad.
I'm also giving it to Scream. I feel like, just in general, everything about the filmmaking of that movie was unique, and especially for the time, when people say that Craven reinvented and reinvigorated the slasher genre, they're not wrong. He really did. And I Know What You Did Last Summer is great, but it's kind of a run-of-the-mill teen slasher from that period, like insert popular teens hero movie, which is fine. It's fun. But soundtrack-wise, I mean, to me, I had both of the soundtracks, and I loved both of them. But score-wise, definitely Scream.
Kill.
Oh.
I think I got in there.
I don't know. We'll have to
I don't
see.
know.
We'll have
I
to...
had nothing else to say, so.
All right. Okay. Maybe we'll let it slide. Leanne's a little knife happy. We love that. So it's all good. All right, John, you ready?
I'm ready.
Go for it.
Yeah, so I had a feeling this would be a clean sweep for Scream, and it is. I just want to say I love Wes Craven as much as anyone. Kevin Williamson wrote Scream, and he wrote this without Wes Craven at all. So Kevin Williamson saved the slasher movie much more than Wes Craven did. Not that Wes Craven is amazing, the direction's amazing, but I'm going to give a little bit of a shout out here. Remember, the person that wrote it on their own in their hotel room without Wes Craven is the one who had all these ideas that Wes Craven gets credit for.
Wow. He ended the round with a knife drop.
Against my favorite director.
And and shout out to writers. Anyways, okay, so just as it was close, now I Know What You Did Last Summer has some work to do to get back into this. We'll see if it does. We're gonna start off with the man we just ended off with. John, you're gonna lead us off with characters.
Yeah, this was tougher than I thought because they both have their pros and cons. I think I'm going to give it to Scream again because the characters that have negative traits, it's specific and it's character driven and it plays into the story. Whereas like Ryan Phillippe's character, I Know What You Did Summer, is just kind of insufferable because he just is. So Scream, the characters have a range of how much you like them, but I think it's very driven by character and plot and what's going on around them. And when they reveal everything, a lot of that stuff makes a little bit more sense. So Scream for the win.
Scream for the win. All right, Sunny.
I'm giving it to Scream. I think that the characters are more fleshed out. Not that they're all terrible, and I Know What You Did Last Summer. Helen Shivers might be my favorite character in anything ever. But Ray specifically didn't seem to have a personality at all beyond being super shady and in love with Julie, and that just bothers me.
All right. Okay, so we will go to Haley.
I'm gonna give it to Scream because I do think that the characters are just such a fun time in Scream, especially Stu. You gotta love Matthew Lillard. I think his performance is just so fun in that, and I think that all the characters just have a sense of kind of joy and fun that I think is missing from I Know What You Did Last Summer. Even though I do like those characters, you just have a bit more of a fun time with Scream watching them and their dynamics.
Okay, Michelle.
I totally agree with what Haley just said. I'm going to have to go with Scream. The characters are much more interesting to me. I think they're actually much more three-dimensional than the characters, and I Know What You Did Last Summer. You've got Stu, you've got Billy, Sidney Prescott, the ultimate final girl for me, Ghostface, Dewey. The characters are just so much more interesting in Scream.
Okay, Brad.
Yeah, it's hard to be towards the end of this because I pretty much echo what everyone else has said as well. I mean, if you really get into the ethos of of Scream, and you continue on with the sequels, a lot of those characters had stories that built out over time, even that came back or ended up developing their own kind of three dimension, as you said, really. So yeah, the first one kind of laid that foundation, and everyone had something deeper. Whereas I Know What You Did Last Summer was kind of just, again, like I said earlier, kind of a throwaway, fun teen slasher.
Kill.
Again, I got in there before.
No,
you
that
didn't.
one we're
No,
not
you
giving
didn't.
you. The first one, I'm on your side. The first, but that one, we're gonna have to have slow mo.
I think this is tape delayed on your end. It's tape delayed.
Hopefully, our editing guys have super slow mo ready to go for this. We got photo finishes twice in a row. All right, so we'll move on to kills, and for this one, we'll start off with Michelle.
I'm gonna have to go with Scream. I think the kills are much more brutal and bloody and gory. Look at what happens to Casey Becker in the opening sequence. Her boyfriend's disemboweled. Tatum in the garage door. I think they're just much more creative and gruesome and brutal, pretty much. So Scream.
All right, Haley.
I am also going to give it to Scream, but it was a bit of a close call because I do like the whole beauty pageant scene. I think that's kind of a very unique kind of kill, as well as the way that Helen passes. Like, that's a very fun scene and very complex. But I will give it to Scream just because Ghostface, he's just kind of fun and kooky. And I do think the Tatum scene is definitely like very memorable.
Okay. All right, here we go. Let's get the dramatic finish here. Brad, you're up.
I mean, they both have two great scenes. I mean, of course, the Tatum kill and the beauty pageant kill. They've been, spoofed in I don't know how many movies, right? So they both kind of laid foundation for, others look what they did there. But definitely Scream is my pick for this as well. But yeah, like Michelle said, the kills were just better. They were more gory. They were more detailed, and just got to give it to Scream.
All right, ever since I said we have a battle on our hands, I Know What You Did Last Summer has not registered one vote, I don't think. So, kills, we move on to Sunny.
I Know What You Did Last Summer. I think that Max getting the hook up through the jaw and out the mouth and getting dragged across the ice looks really cool. I think that Helen's chase scene is more interesting than most of the chases going on in Scream. I like it.
All right. Stops the bleeding for a little while. John, you're up.
Yeah, I also think it's I Know What You Did Last Summer. I think, there's the historical greatness of Casey Becker's death, but after that, I think the kills in Scream are pretty mundane. I actually hate Tatum's death because I think it's absurd that they're in a house with 50 people 10 feet away and none of them know this is going on. Plus, she goes through the doggy door, which is also stupid. But I love the guy getting the hook in the face. The other girl that gets kind of dragged down the floor when she has the hook in her gut. I mean, those are pretty gruesome kills. So I think Scream rides on its first kill more than it actual kill by kill.
Always astute and informative. We will move on to the scare factor, and for this, we will start off with John.
I really went back and forth on this one. Excuse me, but I actually am going to give it to I Know What You Did Last Summer. I think Scream has a lot of really cool stuff. Again, most of it's in that opening scene, and after that, it's just kind of riding the tension out. I think sometimes, like when Ghostface shows up in the school, I think that was a little silly too. But Helen's scene is the most intense thing, I think, in both movies, really. And there was just a lot of, just a lot of darkness and tension in I Know What You Did Last Summer, and it kind of kept me on edge a little bit. Whereas Scream, it was kind of more of an upbeat ride, I guess is a weird way of putting it.
All right. Sunny.
I'm gonna go with I Know What You Did Last Summer. I think that Scream's humor sort of lets the tension off a lot. Whereas I Know What You Did Last Summer, everybody's sort of tense the entire time, and it really helps with the vibe.
All right. Haley.
I am going to have to pick I Know What You Did Last Summer, just because, as a few people have mentioned, just because, like, there is that kind of unsettling feeling all the time, as where Scream is just a romping good time the whole time. And also, every time Ghostface shows up, he's cute. You're not nervous. You're like, okay, there he is again. As we're, in I Know What You Did Last Summer, he's a lot more unsettling to see, and just the whole kind of setting makes it a bit spookier.
Okay, Brad, you're up.
I'm also going with I Know What You Did Last Summer. I feel the same way. Like that one, did have some sort of not that they were again, neither of them were really that scary. But yeah, the humor kind of, I don't want to say detracted, but made the scariness of Scream more palatable, easier to digest or whatever. But I Know What You Did Last Summer, there were generally some scares, and it was kind of cool.
All right. It's been a long time, but Michelle, you're up.
I think they're both kind of scary, honestly. But again, I'm going to have to go with Scream. Mainly, probably for the opening sequence with Drew Barrymore. That is so scary to me. And to know that she's being watched, and he asks her, questions about horror movies, but it's pretty obvious he's going to kill her anyway, and that's pretty scary. So, Scream.
All right. Haley, what did you call Ghostface? Cute?
I think I probably said hot, but there might have been a different term I used.
No, I think you.
But
I don't think you said hot. But anyways, we'll see what that counts for in the next category. So we're on to Antagonist, and we're starting off with Haley.
So the Antagonist, I am picking Scream because Ghostface is zaddy. Both Billy and Stu, they are just, fun people. Billy, oh my gosh. But also, that aside, the actual just Ghostface himself is so iconic, and just he's very fun and has this kind of sense of joy to him, how he kind of scurries around. So anything Ghostface I love, so I'm picking Scream.
All right, Brad.
I've said this on the show before. I really don't like Ghostface. He's my least favorite horror icon. I just really don't like him. But in this scenario, I have to give it to Ghostface because of what came out of Scream and what that character did to, the horror genre and the horror community. I mean, it created a new character where a lot of others have not. I mean, certainly the killer in I Know What You Did Last Summer didn't. I mean, there was 2 sequels, but, do we really? I don't think I even saw the third one. But everyone saw all the Screams.
Cut! Gotcha. You can't deny it that time.
Okay, I'll let you have it.
That's what you call a backhanded win as well. You really kind of you gave it the Scream, but you gave him the shots too. So.
Oh God, I hate that guy. I really hate that guy.
Let it out, Brad. Let it out, man. All right, Michelle, you're up.
I have to go with Scream. I love Ghostface. I have so much Ghostface stuff. But he's fun. He's not just a crazy killer. He's fun. He gets his ass kicked constantly, and he never seems to have a bruise on him, like when the reveal comes in any of the movies. I think that's kind of hilarious. And Billy and Stu are such a great, psychotic team, murders team. So Scream.
Okay, Sonny, you're up.
I'm going with Scream, and I'm basing it on franchise as a whole, because Ghostface can be anybody, and that's a little terrifying. Whereas at some point, the fisherman comes back as a zombie, and that got weird. That got really weird.
All right, John.
I'm gonna kind of agree with everybody. I'm gonna give it to Scream on the power of the reveal in the first movie, and again how much it made the plot all make sense, and it was so chilling and kind of uncomfortable and really scary of an idea. I do agree with Brad that Ghostface the look doesn't work for me. It never has. I always think it looks kind of faintly ridiculous. But I do think that first reveal was literally bone chilling. I didn't think it was them, and the fact that there were 2 of them was so scary because no one suspected that either. So I'll give it for Scream for the power of the reveal of the antagonist, but not Ghostface look.
Okay, all right. some complex answers in this show. I gotta say, there's some real thought process going on, which is awesome. Okay, so the next category is original movie poster. So I'll look at who's not looking at their phone to look up the poster, and I will select Brad.
Both of these movie posters are not great. I mean, they're very generic posters. They're pretty much you could interchange those posters very easily, and you wouldn't know the difference. Just change the title. Yeah, Jesus, who do I give the nod to? I know what you did last summer because I think it needs a point. I really don't have. I can't like.
All right.
The garbage.
Well, listen, there's no ties, so I'm glad you came through with a vote. Anybody else noticing Brad getting grumpier as the show goes on?
My brain right now just wants to. Well, I want to see right now. I don't know about anybody else, but I want to see a zombie fisherman movie now. Like that got my brain. I'm like, what? I want to see that now.
That was Scooby Doo. I think they did that. Right?
Oh, they probably did.
Yeah. So, all right, Sunny, you're up.
Okay, I have a problem here. I'm gonna die. So the original posters aren't great, but Scream had these like fancy special edition VHSs, and those kind of rip. I really love them. But the original poster for Scream is super bizarre. Nobody looks like they do in the movie except for Drew Barrymore. So I guess if we're going original specifically, I Know What You Did Last Summer.
All right. Well under the time, Sonny. I don't think you had anything to worry about there. Okay, so we will move on to Haley.
I'm gonna go with Scream because I believe the original is the one that's behind Michelle, correct? Where she's like this, right? The Scream poster, that's the one, right? Yes.
There you go.
I think that one is the most fun, just because I like, kind of the moodiness of that, and then you have all the fabulous characters down below. They are relatively similar, but I think Scream, also anything with Skeet Ulrich on it, that's going to do it. So,
all right, Michelle, you're up.
I pretty much agree with what Brad said. I think in the beginning, neither of the posters are super great, honestly. But and I Know What You Did Last Summer almost looks like a little bit of a ripoff of the Scream poster, the one where they're all on there, to me. But I guess I'll go with Scream because I do, as Haley mentioned, I do like the part with Drew Barrymore covering her face, looking scared. So Scream.
All right, so last up is John. I'm waiting for John to say, I love these posters. If he has the guts to go against the grain here, we'll see. I doubt it. I know John's. I know we think a lot alike, so we'll see. All right, John, you're up.
Yeah, I do not have the guts to say that because I do not believe it. I don't like either of these posters either. Scream ruined movie posters pretty much forever by creating this style of poster. So I'm going to give it to I Know What You Did with Summer, with I Know What You Did Last Summer, mostly because Sarah Michelle Gellar's on it. So win.
All right, we all have our favorites. Okay, so we've come to the last category, and it's fitting. It's the ending, and we will start off with grumpy man over there in the plaid, Brad.
Both endings are okay. I think I have to give it to I Know What You Did Last Summer, though. And I just think when she got out of the shower, and again, it was, I think it was on the mirror, right? I still know. It's like, oh, crap. Like, I think maybe at the time I didn't really think that there was going to be something else that came out of that movie. And for that to kind of leave a cliffhanger was kind of cool. I like that.
All right. Okay. So, Sonny.
I don't like the cliffhanger. I'm going with Scream. I like that everybody got a happily ever after. Well, most people got a happily ever after. I didn't like that we don't really know what happens to Ben, aside from him getting his hand cut off and falling in the ocean. He could be anywhere doing anything. And the fact that he jumps through the mirror at Julie was always very strange to me. How did he get back there? Where was he? I don't like that. But I don't know. Scream also has they drop whisper to a scream over the end, and I don't know. I find it satisfying.
Ooh, that must have been close. No.
36 seconds.
Oh, that was
I almost got you.
Almost got her.
Someday.
All right, Haley.
So I really debated between the two of them because I do think that I know you did last summer. That is such a unique sequence, like on the boat and all that kind of stuff. However, I am going to give it to Scream because I think the whole reveal is just so fun, and especially Stu being like, "My parents are gonna be so mad at me." Like there's so many fun things that come out of that sequence, and then as people had said, there is kind of a full conclusion to all the characters other then some people getting dragged away in the stretcher, but I do think that it is just kind of a more fun ending.
Kill.
Oh, yeah. We're gonna kill you, Haley. We'll watch the tape. We're gonna have a lot of replay to play on this episode. It's never happened before, but well put. And we will go to John.
Yeah, this was tough because I really wasn't sure what to consider the endings for these movies. Were we talking about the stinger, or were we talking about the entire final sequences? And I kind of didn't make a decision. I'm going to give it to I Know What You Did Last Summer because I do like the last stinger, and the ending sequence is pretty straightforward and to the point, but it gets everything done really well, I think. Bad things happen to the bad guy. The good guys live happily ever after. I think Scream after the reveal, I think it kind of overstays its welcome a little bit. Like, it keeps going and going. It's like, we know who the killer is. We know. There's only so many more jokes we can make about horror movies at this point. So let's wrap it up. So I'm going to wrap it up and say I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Okay. All right. Michelle?
I think that the ending to I Know What You Did Last Summer is pretty weak, at least for me. The ending to Scream is so much fun. You don't see it coming. First of all, the first time you see it, it's shocking. And it's also pretty scary how crazy Billy and Stu really are. And Matthew Lillard has some of the best lines, I think, of any horror movie in that sequence. So definitely Scream.
Awesome. Okay, so you guys all did it. You broke it down, and Leighanne has got... This was a pretty close one. A lot of back and forth categories. One of the things I'm going to actually just throw in, I was waiting to see if just anybody brought it up, and it kind of came up in little slices, but if you were as old as I am, and you kind of lived through the 80s with like the horror films and stuff like that, when the 90s came around, I mean, it died. Horror died, and it was really, really a bummer. I remember it was really lean, and no one younger can understand that. And then Scream came along, and really, it just kind of just like revitalized the whole genre, and so its impact, and now there's no going back. I mean, now you've got like A-listers in horror films, you've got horror shows and stuff like that, so there's no going back. But it's hard to imagine, but there was a point where you were like, okay, Dr. Giggles, let's do it, because that's all they're
Don't diss Dr. Giggles, dude.
I knew that was
a
coming.
Great movie.
I knew that was coming when I said it. I'm like, someone's got...
We need a Dr. Giggles versus the dentist. Have we done that yet? We need to do that.
No. We'll see how it goes. We'll see.
Yes.
I'm always calling for suggestions. So
yes.
All right, Leighanne, do we have a winner?
We do, but I got to give a shout out to our final girl and guy that made it through this whole killing scene, which is Sunny and John. You guys, there was no death for the two of you. So this one, it started off really close. I mean, second round, they were right against each other, but Scream took it by quite a bit.
Yeah. Well, we will obviously post the results once the show is up and airing. But I'm not really too surprised. I feel like the love for I Know What You Did Last Summer is strong, but I think just Scream is a beast, and it's hard to knock a series that's still going strong. where you're going against one that's kind of dead for now. Anyways, so that's it for another episode of Horror Face Off. Thank you, Leighanne. Don't forget to check out the Horror Face Off Instagram for a lot of just fun stuff. Other episodes, older episodes, and later episodes could still be viewed on the Horror Slash channel. Thank you to our awesome panelists for joining us. It's always nice to get some new people on the panel, and we did that. Shows will be premiering on the Kings of Horror YouTube channel Fridays at 8 p.m. Just have a look and make sure it's a Friday that is hosting a premiere. And that's about it. Join us for the next episode, which will be The Shining versus Silence of the Lambs. For now, I'm Jason, and thank you for joining us on Horror Face Off. We'll see you soon.